Hey guys, so I've been messing around a little bit with a build on Alarak that I wanted to share with everyone, and I also want to mention a few things about it. I was watching Alarak being played in competitive lately, and ever since they've been nerfing the E talents from Alarak, he's been used a little bit differently. He's been used as more of a utility, and they've been still picking the E talents, but I think they just haven't really practiced enough of his other builds since they've been buffing his Q build and his W build, that I feel like this build may end up being the real build. So we're going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to break down the talents that I pick and why I recommend going for these talents, and we'll kind of go from there. So to start off, the level 1 talent you get is Ruthless Momentum. It allows you to have a lower mana cost, which, I mean, that's negligible, and essentially cuts your W cooldown in half as long as you're above 75%. And I call this the utility build, utility burst build anyways, for two reasons. One, because you have a ton of utility. If people ever jump in on your team, you can immediately push all the enemies away and your team gets out safe. But at the same time, you can set up a lot of fights that you normally wouldn't have taken. And because of the lower cooldown, you can pull minions closer together, so you actually have much better wave clear on them. And this game I learned that I was the solo lane, so I'll have a lot of time to talk about the build while my character is just hanging out in the solo lane and dealing with someone. But we start off doing some damage onto the Diablo. I try to silence him. He tries to pull me at the same time, so it doesn't go off. But it's very easy to pull him, take him out, because I'll have my W cooldown available so often. Not a big deal. He honestly just made a bit of a mistake, so it's not anything crazy. I didn't do anything amazing there. But we'll talk about this for a bit. So in the beginning, one of the big things that I do this game is you can see they have more experience than us. I see that the Abathur is up in this lane, so I don't want to push anymore right as I see that. So I immediately go in a bush and I hide. This way he's going to start losing experience unless he uses his hat. So all I need to do is watch for the hat, and I need to go in and I need to kill the minion that is hatted. And as long as I do that, and keep the minions over here, what's going to happen is, boom, he just missed that experience, he's going to miss this experience, and he's going to keep missing experience. So he puts the hat back up, I use my E and auto attack, I kill it, and now he's going to miss this too. So you see how we're behind in experience, and now we're catching up in experience because he's no longer gaining experience at its lane, and I am. But that's all just solo lane tips and tricks, whatnot. I'll do that on another, I mean, I've done solo lane tips and tricks before, so I'm not going to do that again. But I do want to talk about the rest of this build. So this build is based primarily on your level 1, 4, and 7. 1, to lower the cooldown of your W to where you can use that as a utility. You can use it as a setup, you can use it as a follow-up, you can use it to get people away from your team as a disengage or an engage. It's awesome. That combined with your level 7 that increases their range and how far it pushes is incredible. You'll see right as I hit 7, the enemies don't even know what's going to hit them. But at the same time, I get Show of Force. And Show of Force is the burst portion of this build. Yes, while Chaos Reigns is really good, and I think this build could use Chaos Reigns instead of Show of Force, Chaos Reigns has the problem of, if the enemies are playing correctly, this talent will not be that great. But Show of Force, there's no way to stop it. I literally will be increasing my damage throughout this game, and there's nothing they can do about it. I will pull people in, I will combo them, and I will get stronger every single time I do that until I'm at 20%, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't spread out, there's absolutely nothing, which is why I've been liking Show of Force, and it has scaled damage that it adds onto it. For example, let's say you get Chaos Reigns. You get 120 damage pretty reasonably by hitting 2 people. Show of Force is already 86 damage. So you're already almost there, not to mention it's just extra damage. So it's like, it's gonna happen no matter what, even if you don't get the Chaos Reigns done there. But you can see right as the fight starts, we pull people in, we get the silence off, we get some damage, we get 1 stack of our Show of Force. Now we have 2% more damage, as well as we have that bonus. We combo them in, we silence them, we get that burst damage as well. It's very easy to blow people up, and we have that utility to just constantly pull them. Now, the health is lower than 75%, so I don't have the lowered cooldown on my W, but I can get that pretty reasonably. It won't take me too long to get that. And but you can see already, I mean, 6% from takedown, 6% from Show of Force. So, and I've only ever hit 2 with Chaos, or with this, so I would only be at the 120 extra damage. which right now I'm at 86 extra damage plus 6% more damage on my Q, which adds up to being more than the second reward on Chaos Reigns. So this build is just as good as the Q build in the early game, but the problem with the late game is that Chaos Reigns damage doesn't scale. You get 60, 60, and then 120, yet Show of Force damage scales. Not just that, but Increased Sadism also scales. So this build has like everything that the Q build has in terms of bonus damage. Like watch this. This guy gets stunned, silenced, E, auto attack, dead. Just so easy. Full combo. He gave me that percentage, so it's very easy. The enemies don't realize that they're out of position. He gets hit by a mortar. And my health will almost get up to the point where I can get the double cooldown, or the double speed cooldown. And now watch this. Like, look at these guys. They don't even know they're out of position right now. Boom. Dead. They don't even see it. Like, once you get applied force, the range that you can kill enemy heroes is so huge. And there's, like, nothing they can do about it. Right here, he doesn't realize. He's like, oh, I just wanted to help out. Boom, dead. You know what I mean? Like, this guy doesn't even... They can't even do anything. We get a free keep out of this because nobody realizes how long the range of applied force is. Which, don't get me wrong, this is the talent that's been picked for a long time. It's just that people aren't used to playing against Alaraks who have their W off cooldown so often. So one person gets killed and they're like, oh, I'm fine to walk back in. And then two more people get killed. And then the third person's like, oh, I'm good to go back in. And he gets killed too. And it's like we just get kill after kill after kill. Now, I've actually... This is the longest game I've played since I've been messing around with this build, and it legitimately, I have not lost a game in this build yet. Now, I don't think that this is like an end-all greatest build of all time. E-build is still very good. I've just been transitioning into this build because I've been watching the pros play in the competitive scene. I've been watching Heroes Hype, I've been watching Heroes Lounge, and the way that they're playing Alarak is they're still going E-build, but they're just... doing it for the utility of Alarak. They're pulling people into their team's stuns, into their team's damage, and they're not actually getting much value out of the E. I mean, the most stacks I'm seeing in the competitive scene for E is 40 or 50, and with the scaling that's being done on that, that's almost better to just go the Show of Force build rather than E build. I mean, there are the benefits of E build after 16. You can Lightning Barrage twice and then reset your cooldowns and Lightning Barrage 2 more times, but you're going to see that even without E, I can do a ridiculous amount of damage to those targets. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. So I do pick up Counter-Strike at level 10. Again, you're going to have a decent amount of sadism in this build because you're trying to stay above 75% health. You're going to be playing rather safe. You're going to be engaging from kind of far away. So you're going to keep your sadism high, and Counter-Strike scales with your sadism. So that 407 damage is going to be increased by 31%, and you're going to be doing huge chunks of people's health. Now, I'm pretty bad. I don't actually play a lot of Alarak, so you're going to see most of my combos are not the greatest, and I do miss a lot of abilities, including a lot of ults. But if you're better than I am at Alarak, you should really be trying out this build, purely because it is devastating. I mean, every time the enemies don't think they're out of position, I'm almost always getting a kill. And if I would have had full health there, we would have killed both of them because I would have had a lower cooldown. And yeah, use my ult. Don't get hit by that turret, which is unfortunate because I thought I got hit by that turret, but whatever. So I'll fast forward a little bit. I'm back, and then we head back in. And my Show of Force is completed, so I get 20% sadism just from that. And it is brutal. I mean, it is such a consistent way to get sadism in the early game, and you just get terrifying from it. And they even, like, I felt like they were tryharding too. They had Genji and Abathur against our team, so I was a little worried at the start of this game. But it's, I mean, it hasn't been a challenge at all. And also, his build's pretty weird. His build's weird too. This is, oh, a little bit of a disclaimer. This is not a Storm League game. I'm still playing around with builds on Alarak, and I was just messing around. But still, I mean, this is what you would see in some of the lower ranks of Storm League, this play. And if you could imagine, like, doing this to Storm League, like, it's just, it's insane. So this is what I love about it. Do you see how I just quickly push someone away? Like, it's, it happens a lot more. Look at that. Almost 40% of a Genji's health on a single ability. And I'm not even maxed on sadism. But, yeah, Earlier in this game, I pushed away from a Muradin like 3 or 4 times, and there's a few other times where I use my push just to save the team, which is why I call it the utility build. And that was a great stun by that Muradin. I'll call it like a utility build, because there's a lot of times where I'm just using my W for the utility of it. Like right there, just getting him a little bit closer to the team, nothing crazy. If I can silence him, yeah, if I would have silenced him, he would have been dead for sure. A little bit of counter synergy there. But yeah, it's generally a pretty fun build to play. You're constantly pulling people. You're constantly doing a bunch of damage. And right here, I mean, just look at this ult. Look how much damage that is. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. You also heal a decent amount. I mean, your E, it doesn't scale. Like, your E doesn't gain any benefit from sadism, I don't think, unless it's just spell power. Oh, yeah, it is increase your healing as well. Today I learned. I go pure malice. I think it would have been better this game to go for right. And I think in the future, I do think I'm going to start just going right. I went pure malice because I got a little greedy and I thought that, like, if we died, it would be the fastest because it's 10% sadism every time an ally dies. And I was like, oh, my allies are playing pretty aggressive. That's good. But you can see, like, even like a kill like that, I'm going to rewind a little bit. And I just want to show you guys, like, nobody expects this. Like, how often you have your pull available. Nobody expects it. It's just, you're constantly pulling so much that people don't really realize it. So, like, right as the immortal jumps, I mean, we kill people over walls. Like, literally, this guy, boom, silenced, dead. Literally. Like, there's nothing he could do. It's just not gonna happen. And, I mean, he would have gotten stunned anyways by the Tyrande, but the fact that I was able to get the full combo off means that I got that extra 118 damage off of my show of force, and with the amount of sadism I had, plus the fact that he was silent so he couldn't get away and he couldn't deflect from the Punisher, he just dies. And that's it. Another person, we go, we pull. I missed the silence that time, or else that Lily would have died immediately, but, I mean, brutal. Absolutely brutal. This guy, we'll just pull him back in. This time I wait, and we go for the ring first, and again, would have killed both of them if that would have landed. And we could just go for another one. Like, no one expects the pull to be up so much. You literally, like, they see the pull go off, and they're like, oh, we can go in now. We can do stuff now. And then we have the pull back up again. And there's just nothing that they can do, which is just, it's such a fun build for that. And again, I'm not saying this is all on me. I'm not a great Alarak by any means. And this build isn't godly by any means. It's just a fun build to play because you're constantly pulling people. The fact we're dominating is we've got a solid team and the enemies are making a lot of mistakes. That's pretty much what it's coming down to. But I still want you guys to try out this build. It's a lot of fun. It does a lot of damage, and it's got a lot of utility. The biggest thing that I would say, my biggest tip, hands down, on this build is playing safe. If you can play safe and just set up stuff for your team, it's going to be amazing. But if you start dying, everything, you're going to lose all your sadism. And this build doesn't do a lot of damage without sadism. You can get your sadism rather quickly by just comboing like their tank every time. And also, you can see I pull the minions together whenever I'm like clearing a wave or whenever I'm working on a camp. I pull the minions together so I could speed it up by using my abilities. I see a lot of times people try to do camps or something, or waves or camps on Alarak, and they're like, oh, well, you can't really do waves. It's like, you can do wave clear on Alarak. It's good. But yeah, I go Lethal Onslaught here. It was just the one that gave the best damage buff for immediate fights. Rather than Mocking Strike, which I could get more pulls out of, which may be the thing if my team has a lot of damage. But that's all it's really getting immediately, is just more pulls. So I like Mocking Strikes. You can see the extra crit damage right here from an auto attack. And it makes it to where like your next few auto attacks do bonus damage. It's great for taking out like a really high health tank. Because you already have burst, now this gives you sustained damage. But it's not really required. I think all of these talents have their value for sure. So I would say 16 is more preference than anything else. Level 20, I think if you're good at Alarak, you should be going Hasty Bargain, because if you can full combo someone twice, they're just dead. And if you can full combo like 2 people twice, then you just won the game. But the challenge is, like, I'm not that great with Alarak, and I'm not sure exactly, I'm not as confident with my combos as I should be. So I go with Deadly Charge, and with 140% sadism, it's pretty scary. And, I mean, you could go Blade of the High Lord in this build, I guess, because you're constantly pulling people in and auto-attacking, so you could probably get a lot of sadism quickly. But I don't like sitting around and auto-attacking that long on this build, because you want to play safe and you don't want to take unnecessary damage. So unless they have a tank that's honestly just, like, sitting in fights, or you're going against, like, a Misha that's trying to hold a point, I wouldn't be going Blade of the High Lord. But Rider Rakshu, you could definitely go in this build, because you're constantly getting Qs off on people. And they kind of go for a desperate fight here. They just hit 16, even though they've been losing the fights. But, I mean, look at that. I did 40% of a Diablo's health with an ult. And then I just pull him back in, get a kill there. I've got my W coming off cooldown again. Kill him. And then they chase a Lily. I actually chase with the Lily as well for a little bit. And then I remember that it's a Lily with a hat on. And I'm like, there's no way we get that. So I fast forward. And we go from there. And that is, that's pretty much this build. Like, have you guys played this build? So, again, like, the reasons I went this is, in the recent patch, they've buffed his Q build, they buffed his W build, and they nerfed his E build. And ever since they nerfed his E build, the competitive scene has still been using it, but it's just not been doing a lot in terms of damage, but they've still been using it for utility. Like, they'll use their W to pull them closer to a tank that's going to, like, charge them, or pull them closer. Like, you can pull an enemy to a wall for a Diablo to stun them. You can pull enemies towards a Garrosh to stun them. And you can see, like, I keep pulling the Diablo away from this this hammer. Every time the hammer tried to walk, or the Diablo tried to walk up to the hammer, I just pull him away, pull him away. And his build's all auto attack based, which is kind of derpy, but whatever. I pulled the mule away, and it started going up to try to repair something else. I don't know where it was going. Kind of crazy. And then a Deadly Charge, you know, just to get some quick kills. Nothing crazy. I like Deadly Charge, but I do think Hasty Bargain's better if you're good with it. It's just so much possible damage. But yeah, that's the new Alarak build. Straightforward, what I recommend, why I recommend it. Utility burst build, guys. Try it out. See if you like it. If not, you can always go back to his old builds. Let me know if there's any Alarak mains in here, if they've played around with it. I've been getting some competitive teams to try it out. And for the most part, the competitive teams are really, really liking it. But they're worried that it doesn't scale that well compared to the E build. And I'm showing them that it really does, because you have sadism and you have show of force that its damage scales. So I personally think that it really does scale well, but they're testing it out right now, seeing if it's something that they want to run. So I was just showing it to you guys, seeing if you guys like it as well. Try out the utility burst build and see if it works for you.